Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Amy Crane, Social Lab Marketing. So excited to have you here with me today, and thank you for taking 30 minutes out of your day to come hang out with me. So before we get started, I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to get signed on and get into the room. I am really excited because I got an email this morning from Pinterest saying that I have access now to their new promoted pin. So Pinterest has been rolling out their new ad platform, and so they've slowly been giving people access to it, and I finally got access today. So super excited. I actually created my first promoted pin this morning. So I'm going to test it out, see how it works, and hopefully by next week I'll have more of an update for you guys. I'll let you know what I'm seeing, if it's working, or what is working, what's not, all of that good stuff. So really excited to test that out. So if you guys have it, if you've been playing around with it, I would love to know what you're seeing, if it's working for you, what you're using it for, all of that good stuff. So I think this is just gonna make, this is gonna be fun. I'm excited for it. So today we're gonna talk about mistakes that people make when they're getting started with advertising on Facebook. So I wanted to talk about this today because I know we've got a lot of people that are just getting started with Facebook, and I get it. I know it's frustrating. I made a lot of these mistakes when I was just getting started, and I think that it's, you know, these are also common mistakes that I see just in general when I'm working with clients and when I'm having conversations with people. So it can be frustrating when you're not sure, you know, the right way to do it. And we all see these ads on Facebook all the time, right? Saying, I spent $5 on Facebook ads and I made 6 figures in 48 hours. And you're like, well, how did you do that, right? Or someone saying that they're getting emails to their list for like 2 cents an email. And it's like these crazy numbers. And if you're trying to get your ads going and you're not seeing those same numbers, you feel like you're doing something wrong when you probably aren't. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions and, you know, where people, I feel like, get tripped up when it comes to Facebook advertising. So I love it. I love Facebook advertising. I used it for my retail business, and obviously I use it for this business. This whole business is based around Facebook advertising. It works well, it's fast, and it's one of the more cost-effective options out there. But it still takes time and it still takes money to get those campaigns up and going. So even though you can get people to your list, you know, for a couple dollars an email or $1 an email, it still takes time to build that list, and it still takes a little bit of playing around and tweaking to make sure that you're getting those campaigns up and going. So if you're just getting started, it makes sense to spend some time just figuring out what works for you and for your business. Because just because something works for me or works for one of my clients doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. Everyone's business is in a different place. Everyone's audience responds in a different way. So you do need to take some time to figure out the best group to target, figure out what they respond to. Do they respond to one headline over another headline? Do they click on one type of image over another type of image? So there are a lot of things that you have to figure out. And some people get lucky and they hit it out of the ballpark the first go around. And sometimes you've got to play with it a little bit. So if your first few ads don't do what you want, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. A lot of people, and I do this too, even with my own business, I might upload some ads. I get an idea for some ads, I run them, and they suck. And so I'm just like, you know what, fine, great. Move on to the next one. So some campaigns are going to be more effective than others, but the main thing, the most important thing, is being really clear on your goals, right? So where are you in your business and what does success look like for you? So, you know, the first few months I was in business, I just wanted to build my email list. That's all I wanted to do. I was just focused on getting those first 1,000 subscribers to my list, and that's all I was worried about. So that's what I focused on. So that was success for me, was hitting that 1,000 email subscriber mark, where success for someone else might be making $5,000 a day off of Facebook ads. So just be really clear with where you are in your business, and just know that every business is completely different. Your audience is going to respond in a different way than someone else's. So it's okay if something doesn't work. You can just tweak it and test it and move on to the next thing. So I've got some slides I'm going to share with you guys. So I'm going to pop those up on my screen. So if anyone has any problem seeing these, drop me a message, but let me know that you can see these okay. Let's see. Okay, they should be up. So, and y'all, I apologize. You'll notice that the spacing on these slides got a little funky. You guys know I use Canva for everything. So I was putting this together in Canva, and for whatever reason, it was being a total pain today, and it wouldn't let me space out my sentences. So let's see. Can everybody see that okay? Does that look good? All right, great. So one of the first mistakes that I see people make, and it doesn't matter if you're just getting started in your business or if you've already got a business, but not targeting the right people. So even if you are really, really super clear on who your ideal client is, sometimes people will target just totally the wrong pages because they haven't done their research. They haven't looked into the best pages to target. So here are a couple of examples of what I mean. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients and I ask them, I want you to go out, do some research, figure out, I want you to bring back a list of like 10 pages, people in your industry, in your niche that you feel like would be a good page to target. Now, sometimes people will bring back a list of pages, and these are all pages that have like 300 fans or 500 fans on them. It's going to be really hard to create a target audience with pages that have such a small audience. So sure, they might be your competitor. They might be a business that does exactly what you do. But because they have such a small page, it's going to be really hard to target those people effectively. So we want to target pages that have some more fans, couple thousand fans at least. That's going to give you a bigger audience, and it's going to make your ads a little bit more effective. It gives you a little bit more room to work with. You also want to take some time, and anytime you decide you want to target a page, go look at that page. Make sure that the fans are engaged. Make sure that people are posting and liking and commenting, and that page is posting fairly regularly so that you know that this is an engaged group. And one of my favorite tools, I feel like I talk about this every week, but I really do love it so much, is audience insight. So you're going to learn more about the audience you're targeting before you even get started with your ads, right? So if you've got this list of 10 pages that you want to target or 10 interests, you go to audience insights, you type it in, and it'll tell you exactly how engaged this group is. Are they liking and commenting on posts? Do they click on ads? Do they like to buy online? Do they make a lot of purchases online? Or are they not that engaged? So it'll help give you a better idea when you're getting started before you even start spending money on your ads. So definitely take some time, play around with audience insights, because it's really, really important. It's a really great tool, and you can also find other pages that your fans might like. So it's a really great way to brainstorm ideas and figure out some other places where your fans might be focusing or might be. And of course, we want to focus on quality, not quantity. So this is something that's really important. It's not about getting like the lowest cost, the cheapest cost. It's about making sure we're getting the right people to our list. Oops. We want to go this way. Okay, so sorry again that the slides are a little scrunched, but hopefully you guys can see this. So the next mistake is that people invest too much money before they know what's working. So if I have a client that comes to me and they say, we've got $3,000 to spend this month, I'm like, that's great, that's awesome, but we want to get our ads up and working before we start spending our budget. Because if I upload a bunch of ads and I put all of our budget in at the beginning, Facebook's going to spend that budget no matter what. Doesn't matter if people are clicking, if they're converting, it doesn't matter. Facebook's going to spend that money. So you don't want to throw money at it. A lot of people will do this. And this is across the board with advertising in general. People like to throw money at things, right? They think if they spend $1,500 here on an ad or $2,000 here, then it's got to work because they spend a lot of money on it. But don't waste too much money in the beginning. Take some time, figure out your targeting, make sure you're targeting the right people, test out your headlines, test out your images, all of that good stuff. So keep your budget pretty low until you know what's working. And then if you want, then you can up it. So I always tell the story, you know, that when I was getting started, I was literally spending $5 a day on Facebook advertising. That's all I was spending. And so I had a really small budget and I had to make the most out of that budget. But then once I started to get more clients and I started to get more business, I was able to up that budget. But having a small budget is not a bad thing. You can still do a lot with it, but you've got to figure out the right combination before you just start throwing money at it. You know, once you've got an ad and you know it's working, then you're good to go. You can up your budget to whatever you're comfortable with. Another thing you want to keep in mind is, what are your numbers? Be really clear on what a new customer or a new client is worth to you. So I get asked a lot, like, what can you expect to spend to get someone signed up for your email list? And there's a huge range here, right? Like, you can spend $1 to $4. It really depends on your target market, your niche, and what you're selling. So think about it this way. Let's say I've got a $1,000 product that I want to sell. So I'm going to spend $500. I'm going to invest $500 in Facebook ads, and maybe I get 250 people to my list for that $500. So I've spent $2 in email on those 250 people. But if I get one of those people to sign up as a client, then I've made my $1,000. So I've made back the money that I spent on those ads. So I've got a higher margin to work with. Usually, my retail clients, and I totally get this because I was in retail, you've got really tight, really small margins. So they may not have as much room to play with, but they're also selling something that's probably a lower cost. So maybe they're selling a $10 t-shirt or, a $30 necklace. So it's not such an investment, right? It's a little bit easier to sell something like that. So they're probably not going to spend as much money to get a new customer as someone that's selling something that's a higher price point. So I just tell you this because I want you to keep these things in mind, that just because you're spending a little bit more doesn't mean that it's not quality and it's not going to pay off in the end. And just because another business is spending less, that it might just be dependent upon their margins and their price point. So just keep that in mind. Like, what does it cost you to get a new client? What's a new client worth to you? And you can use that to set your own budget. These slides do not want to cooperate today. Okay. Mistake number 3, you're not testing enough. So you always want to test a couple things. And I think that a lot of people would be surprised just how much testing and tweaking can go into an ad campaign. Sometimes you get it right the first time and it's awesome and your ads just take off and it's like magic and you feel really proud of yourself, like you know exactly what you're doing. And then other ad campaigns, you've got to play with them a little bit. You might have to tweak your targeting some, and you might have to tweak your images or your headline. So you don't want to be scared to test your offer and really figure out what works. So if you feel like something's not working the first go round, that's okay. Just test something else out. I think people feel like if they try like 1 or 2 things and that doesn't work, then they're done. They don't even want to mess with it anymore. But sometimes it takes a couple rounds to get things going and to get them where you want them. So test out a couple different headlines and headlines and images. I always recommend, you don't have to go crazy here, but when you're just getting started, just pull 3 headlines that you want to test and then 3 images. So you're not doing anything crazy. It's not like you're having to go out and create 20 different images and 20 different headlines and you're just totally overwhelmed with it. Just narrow it down. Just pick 3 headlines and 3 images. Test those. See how those work. And then you can go from there. If they don't work, then you can just go on to the next thing. All right. So not paying attention to the right metrics. this is a big one. This is something I hear a lot and I see a lot on Facebook. People want to pay attention to reach and click-throughs. Click-through is always one people get really excited about. But you've got to pay attention to the right metric. So what the number one metric I pay attention to is my cost per conversion. That's the number one metric. That's what I need to know. How much am I paying to get an email, a click to my website, or a sale? That's the key metric. You can have a really high click-through rate and have low conversions. So just because people are clicking on your ad doesn't mean that they're converting. And just because you've got a reach of, 20,000 or 50,000, that doesn't mean that your ad is performing. So you want to make sure that you're really paying attention to the metrics that matter. So just look at your cost per conversion. Now, if your cost per conversion is too high, you feel like it's too high, then you can always look at your click-through rate. Like, I'm not saying ignore it completely, but it's not going to give you the full picture. So just because you've got a 4% click-through rate, that doesn't mean that your ad is working. Look at your cost per conversion. And then also pay attention to some other goals, right? So what are your goals when you're running these campaigns? Are you trying to get people to your email list? Are you trying to get them to show up to a webinar? So I always pay attention, yes, to, my cost per conversion. So great, I'm getting people on my list for $1 an email. But now that they're on my email list, are they actually opening my emails, and are they actually showing up for my webinars? Or am I just sending emails out and no one's opening them and no one's showing up, and I'm just talking to myself every Tuesday, right? So, it's great to get them on your list. It's great to get them to your website, but you want to make sure you're paying attention to what happens to them after. And that's a good way to tell if you're getting quality people to your list. So this is where people get into trouble when they're saying, yeah, I'm getting people on my list for 2 cents an email, and that's awesome. That's great. But are they actually good leads? Are they actually, opening your emails? Are they actually buying from you? So that's where you want to be really careful when you're chasing that lower cost. There's a fine line there. I'm more than happy to pay a little bit more to get quality people to my list. Like I tell you guys, I know I've shared this before, that I pay more to get people signed up for this webinar series than I do for my 5 Facebook ad templates. So I could build my list a lot faster with my 5 Facebook ad templates, but that list doesn't convert as high into customers as this list does. So I'm totally happy to pay a little bit more. So those are the kind of things you want to pay attention to. And when you're just getting started, really it's just focusing on that one thing at a time. So just getting those people on your list, right? Until you've got enough data and you've had that list long enough to know that, okay, I'm getting customers from this, or people are actually buying, or maybe it's, no one's opening my emails. I'm not getting any kind of response. I probably need to change something up. So just pay attention to the things that really matter and make sure that it's in line with your goals. All right, trying to make an offer work that doesn't. So I see this a lot. Someone has spent a lot of time and money putting together a really fancy PDF. They've hired a graphic designer, or they've done a video series. They've spent a lot of time and money on it, and they are determined to make it work. But they've ran ads, it's not working. They've tested different headlines and images and nothing. They're not getting any conversion. So if you've tested, and you're still not getting any conversions, it's probably going to come down to your offer. So I always say a Facebook ad campaign is only going to be as successful as your offer. So you've got to have a really, really great offer. And there's a lot of competition out there. So if your offer isn't great, if it's not something that people really, really want, then your ads may not convert. So I always recommend, and this is how I went through 3 free offers before I finally found one that works. So here's what I recommend doing. If you've got a free offer that's not working, or you're just trying to come up with your first free offer, you want to build your email list. spend time creating the content. You've got to make sure the content's there, right? It's really great, good, juicy content that people will want, whether it's a PDF, a video, a webinar, however you want to deliver it. Spend your time creating the content. You don't need to make it super pretty, super fancy. There's plenty of free tools out there that you can use, like Canva, to pull together your PDFs or your ebooks. But test it out. So create your really awesome content and test it out before, you go pay a designer to make it look like a nice, pretty ebook, or you go out and hire a videographer to create really fancy videos. Make sure you test it out. Make sure it's something that your audience really wants. And then when you know it's something that they really want, then you can start to invest a little bit more in it. But that way you're not wasting a lot of time and money on something that doesn't work. So upload, test out your ads, see if it's something that works, but just keep in mind, if it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and think about what your audience what they really need, what they really want, like more than anything in the world. What did they want to know, or what do they want to learn, or what would, save them time, what would save them money? Think of just like one really great thing that you could give them that would save them time, money, or energy, right? So if your offer isn't working, move on to the next thing. Don't waste a lot of time and money on something that isn't going to convert. The next thing is not using the language of your target market. And this is something I know a lot of Facebook marketers are bad about. And I mean, across a lot of industries too, right? Every industry and niche, they all have their own logo or lingo and terminology that they use. But people outside of your industry, they have no idea what you're talking about, right? So you've got to break it down to the most simplest form, so that if I have no idea what you do, and even if I'm not in your target market, I can still understand what you do. Because at least if I can understand what you do, I might know someone that might be interested in your service, so that way I could refer someone. But if I have no idea what you're talking about, I have no idea what you're saying, that's going to be really hard for me to make that connection, right? And the same thing with people on Facebook. You've only got a few seconds to make that first impression. So think about it, if you're out at a networking meeting and you're meeting someone, you've got a couple seconds to say, hi, I'm so-and-so, this is who I help, this is what I do, and to get it across exactly who you help and who you serve. So it's the same thing with Facebook advertising. So you want to make it really simple, so no fancy lingo, and you actually want to use the language of your target market. So like, what are the exact words that they use? So when someone comes to you, a client or a potential client come to you, like, what do they say? Every time I get on the phone with someone, I think they always say, I'm tired of wasting money on Facebook ads. I mean, it's like the number one thing that I hear. I'm tired of wasting money on ads. So what do I use in all of my ads for Facebook? Are you tired of wasting money on Facebook ads? I use it in everything because it's the number one thing that I hear from people. So, and when I'm writing sales copy for opt-in pages or sales pages, I always go out and I'll ask people and I will write down the exact words that they say. And that will give you some really great headlines. It'll give you great copy for your sales pages or your opt-in pages if you're going to do webinars or if you're going to sell a product down the road. But listen to like the exact words that they use. Literally just write down the exact sentence that they say. And then just think about what are they annoyed with? What gets on their nerves? Like, what do they complain about the most? What are they struggling with? So, and how can you help them? So just be really clear and listen to what they're saying. And that's going to help you write better copy for your ads. So avoid using those fancy words and lingo that only you and your friends understand. That would be like me putting out an ad, talking about conversion pixels and get a 3% or 300% click-through rate, all these crazy things that people have no idea what I'm talking about if they're just getting started. The next mistake is always chasing the lowest cost instead of focusing on quality. So we've talked about this a little bit already, but when you're chasing after cost instead of focusing on the quality, you're going to miss out on getting the right people to your audience. There's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to get the best people to your list for the lowest price, I think that's a pretty, effective way to go about it. But sometimes you're only going to get that cost so low. So if you've tried everything you can and you're getting people to your list for $2 an email, but they are good quality leads, it's worth it to pay that $2 an email to get them on your list. But you want to make sure you're getting the right people. I have had campaigns where, you're getting people signed up for 50 cents or 60 cents an email, and that's awesome. And they're the right people, and it's a great offer, and it's something that people are really interested in. So it's like this perfect storm. It's a great combination. But if I'm paying 50 cents to get someone on my email list and they are not good leads, they're not quality, they're not buying, then I'm wasting my money. It's worth it to pay a little bit more. So you just want to make sure you're getting the right people. So don't get too caught up in the fact that you're only paying $1 an email. You want to make sure it's the right people that they're actually converting. Okay, so, that's it. We made it to the end of our list. So if you guys have questions, I'm more than happy to answer your questions now. So go ahead and get them in the chat box. We've got a couple minutes to answer some questions, but I really do just want you guys to remember, that where you are in your business, you've got to be really clear on those goals, where you are and where you want to go. So just because something is working for me or for someone else, everyone's business is in a different place. You've got to decide what success looks like for you and what the goals of your campaigns are. So don't chase these crazy numbers and these silly metrics to make yourself feel better about your ads, but really focus on the quality and making sure you're getting the right people there. All right, so it looks like we've got a couple quick questions coming in. Just scroll through here. So John wants to know how long it took me to reach 1,000 subscribers on my email list. So I did a whole webinar on this, on how I got started for $5 a day. So if you want to check that out, that's over on YouTube. But basically, it took me about 3 months, and I was just spending $5 a day, and I got to 1,000 subscribers. So I only had $5 a day. I knew I had to make the most of my budget. So that's where I tested out a couple different free offers until I found one that really, really worked. And once I found that one, I was able to get my costs down pretty low and still get quality people. So that's how I was able to get those 1,000 subscribers in 3 months. Yeah, but again, getting those 1,000 subscribers, that was my main goal. That was one of my first goals for my business, is I wanted to build my email list. So that was my main focus. That's what I was spending my money on. And even though I didn't have a big budget, that's where I focused. So if I had a bigger budget, I could have built it a lot faster. Now that I do have a bigger budget, obviously I spend a lot more on ads to build my list these days than I did before. So hopefully that answers your question, John. Let's see what else we've got. Lisa wants to know, what's a reasonable budget to start with? And that's a great question. Lisa, it really depends what you can afford to spend and what your goals are. So like we were talking about at the beginning, what does it cost for you to get a new customer? What's a new customer worth for you? Are you selling, really high ticket packages? So you're selling, $2,000 packages or $5,000 packages, or are you selling $10 t-shirts? So it really depends where you are in your business. Is your business already up and going? Are you just getting started? There's no right or wrong when it comes to how much you can spend on Facebook ads. So I got started with $5 a day. I have clients that spend, $200, $300, $400 a day on Facebook. So it really, really just depends, but there's no wrong way to do it. It's just what you can afford to spend, what your goals are, and how long you have. So that time frame is really important too. So if you've got an event coming up in 2 months and you've really got to get people signed up for it, you probably want to up your budget, leading up to that event. So just sit down and take a look at your numbers, what you can afford to spend. But if you've only got $5 a day to spend, that's totally fine. You can still get started with that $5 because that's what I did. So no budget's too small to get started. Sarah wants to know, let's see, should I be paying to promote posts? And the answer is yes, as long as it's as long as it has to do with your business, your service. Don't pay to promote silly posts like quotes or anything like that. But I put a promoted post when I'm talking about my webinars, or if it's a blog post, or if I'm trying to get people to sign up for something or to show up for a webinar. Because you probably aren't getting a lot of reach on those posts if you are if you're just posting it. Probably not a lot of your fans are seeing it. So I always think it's a good idea to take anything that's really important that you want to make sure that people see, that you take that and you turn it into a promoted post. And you can do it for $5 a day, for a couple of dollars, or for a couple of days, or if you want to do $50, it's totally up to you and how many fans you have and what makes sense for you. But yeah, definitely promote your post. And I know that this question is going to pop up because it always does. Promoted post and boosted post. What's the difference, and can you hit that boost button? The boost button now, they've made some changes to, so you can actually hit the boost button and you have more control over who's seeing your ad. So if you only want your fans to see it, or you only want fans in certain countries to see it, you've got more options as far as targeting there. So you can hit that boost button now, but just make sure that you go in and play with your targeting a little bit, and make sure you've got it set the right way. Let's see. Susan wants to know, is there any chance you'll do a webinar on Canva? I actually have not done a webinar on Canva, but if that's something you guys are interested in, I would be more than happy to do a webinar on Canva, even though I didn't cooperate today and my slides aren't spaced out the way that I want it, but that's okay. Yeah, I would love to do one. So maybe we'll get a webinar on Canva on the books for one of our upcoming webinars. So thank you, Susan. I will look into that. All right, so we are out of time for this week, you guys. So I hope that that was helpful. Of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop me an email, hello@sociallabmarketing.com, and I'll be back next week. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, I'm playing around with Pinterest promoted pins. So hopefully next week I'll have a little bit more info and some data for you guys so we can start to talk about advertising on Pinterest, which I think will be really cool. So thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you guys again next Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody.